First story of the day. I've seen a lot of these posts saying, are you an extremist? If you're an extremist, get help or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, is this a joke or is this true? At this point, the difference between the Babylon Bee and the Onion and reality is there is no difference. I mean, I literally, America is so dumb. No offense. I love this country, but we've become so stupid and so weak and so pathetic. I can't tell the difference between parody and reality. So I had to look it up. And of course, it's true, unfortunately. Facebook test prompts that if user asks users if they're worried a friend is becoming an extremist. This was written by Oliver Darcy, our great friend at CNN. I've never met him. I just like to say the word great friend sarcastically. Some Facebook users in the United States are being served a prompt that asks if they are worried that someone they know might become an extremist. Others are being notified that they may have been exposed to extremist content. So these are the two things they're doing. Are you worried that your friend might become an extremist? Wording and linguistics is important because that's what they use to screw us over. But in general, it's not like, do you know somebody who's extreme? Do you know somebody who's like plotting terror threats and stuff? It's like at that point, I think the police station is the proper place to go. If you know somebody that's literally plotting like a physical assault, that's illegal. That's one thing. But like, they're not looking for that because of course they don't care about that type of stuff. They're just like, are you worried that your friend might become an extremist? Not even is your friend an extremist. By the way, the dictionary definition for extremist is like an extreme view in politics or religion. So even that word is broad. It can mean literally anything. And they're like, not is your friend that broad word that could mean literally anything? Is your friend that word might eventually be that? And have you maybe saw a video that we consider extremist? And to me, there's a lot of people who are extreme. There are extremist Muslims who, believe very strictly a certain set of texts and live by that rules. There are extremist Christians. A lot of people would consider like heavy Baptist extremist Christians. They believe what the Bible actually says. A lot of people, I would consider people who wear masks, not because they think it's scientifically proven, but because they don't want to show their face and look like a Republican. This is the new thing on the left wing amongst these kids who I feel terrible for because they've been damaged by the media. They're wearing masks. And I'm like, so that's for science? You think that blocks droplets or something, right? Because it could. No. I just don't want to look like a Republican. How long are you going to hide your breathing holes in your face for? Because I like my smile. I like my face. I mean, listen, it's not about looks, but I'm just saying like, I like to breathe. So regardless, I don't like wearing masks. It's not enjoyable. I'll do it if it makes sense, but I don't like, why are you wearing a mask? Because for science? No. This has nothing to do with science. I just don't want to look like a Republican. To me, that's an extremist ideology. Do I think these people are going to go do something violent? No, I just think they're extremely dumb, extremely naive, extremely self-loathing, and extremely brainwashed by media. To me, that's extremist. So would I report a friend who's hiding behind a mask? No, I would never do that because I'm not like a commie person who's running around trying to like round people up and call them things that they aren't. In this country, you're supposed to have, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. In a free country, you're supposed to have, the right to speak freely. In China, you can't speak freely. In, Soviet Union, you couldn't speak freely. In Germany, I'm sure you couldn't speak freely. You actually still can't speak freely. They'll arrest you for questioning a certain part of history. In Germany, it's in law. But in general, in America, you're supposed to have the right, regardless of how unpopular, to speak your opinion. That's what made us free. When you lose that, and when you lose the right to a fair trial, and when you're you're being reported based on speculation that you might become something that technically, if you're nonviolent, isn't even like illegal. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there's extremist Muslims, extremist Christians, extremist liberals, extremist Republicans who just love this stuff, extreme Trump supporters who just love Trump. 99.9% of them are probably peaceful, so it's like, that word is so broad. It's just like, I find people that hate Trump and watch CNN all the time, I think they're extreme. I think there's extremely extreme Trump supporters who love him extremely, where I don't think they would hurt a fly, but I don't agree with it personally. I'm like, you guys like worship him like he's Jesus Christ or something. So it's like, this word is broad. They're broadening it even further. They're telling people to tell on their friends if they might become something that's extreme. And everybody looks at each other like we're extremists. The right thinks the left is extremist. The left thinks the right is extremist. In the last year, they tried to say that breathing air was an extremist statement. I like to breathe air. I've always liked to breathe air. I'm a pretty grateful guy. Like, I'm like, the sun's out, The bums are out. No, I'm just kidding. The sun's out. The air. I'm like, and they're like, whoa, calm down there, extremists. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, you got to put cloth over your face. I'm like, why? They're like, well, because the CDC said so. I'm like, okay, what about now? Well, the CDC said to not do this. Okay, then why are you guys still doing it then? Well, it was never about the science. We just don't want to look like Republicans. To me, that's very extreme. But I don't think these people are going to hurt somebody. But there have been people who hurt somebody, political violence on both sides. There's been, somebody who shot up a Republican baseball game, who voted, blue. And I'm sure he watched way too much television. I think the television is extreme. Honestly, I think both wings of television are extreme. Some are worse than others, but I don't watch TV because I think it's extremely negative. I think it's extremely polarizing. I think it's extremely bad energy. I think they sell an extreme amount of pharmacy advertisements in the commercials. I think it's extreme, the amount of social justice they're trying to pump into politics to the point where it doesn't even make sense and it's not even helpful. It's counterproductive. So there's a lot of things that I see that are extreme, but I'm not going to report people via that. And what they are doing is trying to get you to report conservatives, people that like liberty, freedom, low taxes, peaceful people who just want to live in a safe environment. That's what they want you to report. And I'm going to just read from the article. This is from the CNN Oliver Darcy article. It says, this is all part of a test that a social media company is running that stems from its Redirect initiative, which aims to combat violent extremism, said Andy Stone, a Facebook spokesperson. So who is Andy Stone? I'm not going to get into this guy's personal life. God bless him. He deserves his privacy. I'm just reading his Twitter. This is who he identifies as. No, I'm just kidding. And he doesn't have his pronouns, but he's the communications guy at Facebook, and he's the alumni at House Majority PAC. And House Majority PAC is working to defend and expand the Democratic House majority by investing in races coast to coast. Senator Barbara Boxer, Democrat, DCCC, which is committed to electing Democrats to U.S. House of Representatives, and Representative McNerney. So he has an alumni of just doing work as a Democratic operative who is trying to get Democrats in office. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're a Democrat and you've worked at 4 different places where your whole job was trying to get as many Democrats in office as possible, and certain Democrats at certain times, but that's the guy who's going to tell me what's extreme or not. Does he think that it's extreme, when people burn down neighborhoods in remembrance of George Floyd and they kill black, ex-police officers like David Dorn, and they destroy coffee shops and they destroy sneaker stores? Is that, I bet that's not extreme to him because he's a Democrat and they capitalize off that type of stuff. I'm not going to say him personally. I don't know the guy. I'm sure he hates me considering how good I'm doing on Facebook and we share different political views, but I have nothing but love for him. But in general, it's like, I find it's extreme that when George Floyd died, they pretty much justified, allowed, and bailed people out of jail who were destroying my neighborhood. And by the way, my neighborhood was a minority-heavy neighborhood, which just got massacred by these psychopaths who were extremely committing acts of crime in my neighborhood to small businesses. I'm sure that's not extreme to him. I'm sure it was people like Kamala and celebrities. I forget who exactly the celebrities, Seth Rogen, I think Steve Carell, from my knowledge, bailing these people out of jail. Let's keep. And this wasn't like, here's an example. There's political extremism on both sides. There's violence on both sides. There's idiots on both sides. No question. After the 6th event, Trump, all these Republicans, pretty much everybody, nearly everybody, condemned it and was like, that was really stupid. Condemn. The George Floyd thing wasn't one day. It was multiple days. Every day it was like you knew the neighborhood was going to get burned down. Imagine if the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, the things kept happening and Republicans started bailing people out of jail, acting like they didn't even see it and just like pretended like it wasn't happening. I'm not trying to justify either or. I think they're both messed up. But the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd type riots that were happening, it was over the span of like a week and a half. And every day people met, and every day people burned down stores, and every day people looted stores. And it's like day 3 and everybody's acting like they don't see it. To me, that's extremely fake. That's extremely naive. That's extremely dangerous. And if you care about these neighborhoods, especially the inner cities, it's extremely wrong. And the Democrats raised an extreme amount of money off of it. Look how much Joe Biden and Act Blue and Black Lives Matter raised off of this extremist violence. A lot of money. So, there's extremists on both sides, no question. But what they're doing is they have a guy who worked for 4 different, Democrat organizations saying he's looking out for extremism. They're not looking out for violence. They're not looking out for, violent terrorism. They're trying to turn everybody and make this kind of culture to say, If you vote conservative, you're probably a terrorist. If you vote for Trump, you're probably a terrorist. If you like low taxes and you're a libertarian, you're kind of like Al-Qaeda. You think I'm joking? John Brennan was on TV and he's talking about extremist groups and he throws in libertarians, like as if libertarians is this extremist group. Libertarians barely get 3% of the vote. It's people who want to live in the woods, drink rainwater, and don't believe government should infringe on every part of their life. That's what most libertarians are. Are there some crazy libertarians? I would assume if there's crazy white people and crazy black people and crazy Democrats and crazy Republicans, I would assume that there's some psychopath in America that does identify as libertarian, but this isn't mind-blowing information. It's like if you get millions of people to support a certain cause, there's going to be bad apples in the bunch. But, this type of culture that they're setting up on Facebook to try to, I guess, report a friend, they're trying to brand a certain style of thinking as terrorism when it's completely peaceful and it's completely, it makes more sense than what they're thinking, to be quite honest. Our country's becoming like super pathetic, super weak, and eventually things are going to stop working. And eventually things that allowed Black people in America to prosper, Hispanics in America to prosper, white liberals in America to prosper, Jewish people to prosper, everybody to prosper, conservatives alike, the things that made America prosperous, the reason when you talk to immigrants, they're always talking about jobs, economy. It's like, that's why a lot of people came to America, for this opportunity. If we're not an economic powerhouse in the country and China overtakes us, this is not going to be possible anymore. And everyone's going to suffer. So we're on the precipice of something very sick. And these Democrats, way more than Republicans, are the ones trying to weaken us, dumb us down, and then basically create this culture of reporting anybody who disagrees with them. This is like straight communist tactics, like we're going to do this and anybody who questions us must be an extremist. It's like, this is the opposite of constitutional. This is the opposite of fair. And it's just embarrassing that they're doing it. But at this point, we're used to what they do. 100 million plus people disagree with them. And 99.999% of those people are peaceful, nonviolent. Some of the best people I meet, and I don't mean to bring race into it, but, obviously they always try to blame white this, white that. But like, you meet immigrants, and the best immigrants that I meet, it doesn't matter if they're Indian, Black, white, Hispanic, they're always like, I'm not going to say everyone's conservative because I have liberal friends, but like, conservatives are some of the nicest people you meet. They're just smart. And they're like, yeah, I don't want to live in a shitty area. I work my ass off to get my family to an area where there's not high crime because I don't want my kids to get killed in the middle of the street like's happening in Chicago. And then she blames racism. It's like, no, you're the mayor of one of the, the harshest neighborhoods in the whole country. And some people in the country don't want to live there. And people who do live there probably don't want to get shot every weekend. So that's why there's a big spotlight on you. It's not because you're lesbian or Black or a woman. It's because that's one of the worst areas in the country. And you decided to run for office there. So it should be no shocker. If I ran for mayor and I won, I would know exactly why there's a lot of pressure on me. And I try to make it better, So these people are so fake. And luckily, I think their tricks really aren't working because it's like they could do all this sort of stuff. But, the truth is the truth. And I think, the universe, God, whatever you want to personally call it, God and the universe will favor people who are really helping and kind people, honest people, not people who fake be nice and try to, destroy everything and hurt people based on this false pretense of everybody who disagrees with high taxes, lockdowns, double masks, double injections, and wearing masks if they're not, so they don't look like a Republican like that. That's not going to get you a lot of favor. You could have the money, you could have the power, you could have the pop-up Facebook ads, but at a certain point, people like myself, all we want is a conversation at the table. And, what they can't debate, they like to take away. And, in order to really heal this country, there's got to be a conversation. And we got to stop looking at all those people. Like, I don't, when you hear me talk about somebody who wants to wear a mask, not because of science, because they think it makes them look Democrat or something, you don't hear me say, I hate that person. They're evil. They're stupid. I think they're a terrorist. You don't hear that come out of my mouth because I feel bad for them. I also feel bad for Trump supporters who think Trump's a secret military president at the border. Like, I feel horrible. Someone cried on my supporters only live stream. I felt bad, but I'm like, you gotta think about this stuff because it's going to ruin your life. But anyway, it's like, I don't hate these. I'm like, I feel like they're self-loathing. And I don't say that to be rude. Like, I think they've been conditioned by the media and the school systems to hate themselves. They've been brainwashed by the television to think that breathing air makes you a conservative. What does breathing air make you? It makes you free. It makes you a human. Going to an event, when you see a stadium full of cheering or you see a concert with 100,000 people. That's human spirit. That's a type of energy that you can't get through a Zoom call. You know what I'm saying? You can't get it through a cell phone. That's the best of humanity. That's the realest thing. That's all we are. That's our best. You take that away, it's our worst. And you hate people who want to do that, you become the worst. So I don't hate these people. I don't think they're terror threats. I just think they've been brainwashed into self-sabotage. And, you know, they say misery loves company, and these people are miserable. So they want the whole country to be miserable. They don't like the country. They don't like the flag. They don't like the people here. They don't like a certain race. And all this stuff is just projection tactics. So, you know, it's not going to work, but it's like, come on, Facebook, get a grip.
I'll be independent. I like my amendments. I don't want to bend it. I don't want to sentence. I am on a vengeance. I will not regret it. I am not defenseless. All my friends protected. Yeah. We let the enemy get too friendly. Now we quarantine like Julian inside the embassy. Pray, 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 pray.